Hi, everyone. Welcome to the ProjectConnect and Movability webinar. We'll be starting in just a few minutes. We're letting everybody kind of get their technology figured out, get logged in, figure out where everything is. So for those of you who have already joined us, thank you for being here. We have a poll question up on the screen about what Capital Metro services you have used in the past, just to get an idea of kind of what level of experience folks have and what things we may need to cover in a little more detail. So please go ahead and click as many of those services that you have used. Click that and submit your answers. And when we get started, we'll go ahead and share those results with you. Again, we'll start in just a couple of minutes, so hang tight. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the ProjectConnect Future of Transit webinar with Movability. We're going to go ahead and get started. I see there's a few more people still logging in, so please get settled in. We have a poll going right now to better understand what your experience is with Cap Metro, which of their different services you've used. So please go ahead and answer that poll and let us know so we can kind of tailor the presentation. Before we get started, I just wanted to introduce myself and Movability. We're the ones hosting the webinar and bringing Cap Metro in, which we're so excited to do. My name is Alex Scarborough. I'm the Director of Membership and Professional Services with Movability. I have some information up on the screen about Movability. They'll pop up just in a minute when we close that poll, but Movability is a nonprofit transportation management association. Essentially, that means that we work with employers to help connect their employees with commute options that save time and money, both for the individual commuter and for the company. So obviously, with that kind of mission, we are very dedicated to what Cap Metro is working on with improving and expanding transit in the region. So I'm excited to share with you today what those plans are going to be and hopefully get some feedback and good questions from you as well. So how many poll answers do we have? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that poll so we can see the answers here. So it looks like 75% of our attendees have used our local services, the Metrobus or Metrorapid. 69% have used Commuter, so that's great. And then we don't have as much experience with van pool pickup or Metro Access. Totally okay. We'll be talking a little bit about all of those today. So hopefully by the end of it, you'll be a little more familiar with those services. Let me just pull up my screen real quick. Hold on 1 second while I deal with technical difficulties. Can you see how to? Okay, here we go. All right, awesome. So here's a little information about Movability. As I mentioned, we're Central Texas's Transportation Management Association. Many of you on the webinar today may be members of Movability or employees of member companies. If so, thank you. We're really glad to have you in the fold. We have over 75 member organizations throughout Central Texas, including the City of Austin, tech companies like Facebook and Google, all the way down to smaller law firms, our partner members like Capital Metro, of course, and Zipcar, Bird Scooters. It really runs the gamut. So we're really glad to be a convener here in Central Texas and be bringing you all into the fold today. One service that I wanted to share with you all is Movability's latest program that we're launching right now. This is something that's been in the works for a little while, and we're thrilled to finally be able to kind of bring it to the public and share it with you. As I mentioned, we have a lot of member organizations. They all have different kinds of mobility challenges for their employees. But one thing that we found is that nonprofits also are having those challenges, but they might not be able to afford some of the, shuttle buses or transit passes or bigger programs that our other members do. So we're launching this new program called NPO Go for nonprofit organizations to be able to take advantage of Movability service, get that customized mobility planning, and really be able to help their employees focus on delivering their mission-driven work and improving our community instead of worrying about the stress of sitting in traffic. So if this sounds cool to you, if you're interested in supporting us, we would love for you to share our Amplify Austin page. We'll be participating in the I Live Here, I Give Here campaign next week. And the link to that is on our page, and donations are available now. And then we're also having a happy hour to kick that off next Thursday. So again, that link is here on the website, and we'll be sending that out as a follow-up to the webinar as well so that you all can join us. We'd love to see you there. So that's it for Movability. Without further ado, the real reason that you all are here is to learn more about ProjectConnect. And I'm going to introduce my friend Lonnie Stern from Capital Metro, who's going to tell you more about ProjectConnect, answer all of your questions, and hopefully just give you a better sense of the exciting future for transit. If you do have questions throughout the presentation, please go ahead and type those into the question box that you should find on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll be answering those at the end. All right, Lonnie, please join us.
All right. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for participating in this webinar. Again, my name is Lonnie Stern, and I'm with Capital Metro and our community engagement team. And you may have heard a thing or two about ProjectConnect, but you may not have come to an open house. And I don't blame you. You know, for a lot of us, we're choosing between having dinner with our family or going to learn more about ProjectConnect. So a webinar like this is a way for you to get up to speed without having to make that sacrifice, but also this exact presentation is something that we can bring to your campus. So if you enjoy the presentation today and think your employees would benefit from it, please get in touch with me and I'll give you my contact information at the end of the presentation. So for today, our plans include talking first a little bit like why transit? Why are we talking about this? Certainly there are plenty of people who think we should just be building roads, so we'll address that. Then we'll talk about types of services, the things that Capital Metro is currently providing, some of which you know about, some that maybe you don't, but also it'll give us a good base so that way when we talk about improving and expanding the offerings through ProjectConnect, you'll know what I mean when I say we want to have more pickup service, for example. And then ProjectConnect itself, we'll take a deeper dive into what the proposal looks like and where the service will go. So let's get started. First, I'm often brought in to talk about transit, but truly people are talking about traffic. And that was an I-35 thing, and then MOPAC, and then 360, and then 620. And the truth is, it's not going to get better anytime soon. The reason why is because we are bringing 150 people a day to this region, and they're bringing 70 more cars to the road every single day. Now, in the past, we would plan for that and build more road infrastructure. But, you know, if you've been downtown recently, if I was to, I don't know, add an extra lane to 6th Street, I would have to remove a sidewalk. That would be the same for just about any downtown street. And so really, it doesn't matter how many lanes we add to MOPAC or we add to I-35. If there isn't a lane to receive those cars coming into downtown, they're just going to back up. It's kind of like when South by hits town and it backs up onto the highway. It's because there's literally not enough room for cars to move through. Now, we know our region is growing. We tend to double every 20 to 25 years. So we're going to go from 2 million to 4 million people, doubling. But our road capacity is only going to increase by about 15%. So what we have is a classic geometry problem. We want to move more people through the same amount of space. Now, this is kind of a classic image that people show in my industry. What you're seeing here are 70 people a day. And on the left side, you see 70 people in a bus. In the middle one, you see 70 people and a bike, 70 people on bikes or scooters, I guess, depending on how you're getting around. And on the right, you see 70 people, but if you do the counting, you're going to see that's not 70 cars. That's like 35 cars. And the truth is, I cut that photo to fit into this slide deck. But what you should know is that most people who are driving to work or driving to school do it alone. So really, there should be 70 cars on that street, another 2 blocks of space. Now, if you've been downtown, you may notice that the city's been working with Capital Metro on priority lanes. And, you know, priority lanes do help the buses go through more quickly, although they do allow, you know, other buses, bikes, people turning right, people breaking the law. I mean, there's a lot of people going through those lanes. But if you're stuck in one of those other lanes during rush hour and you see a bus go by, it can be tempting. You want to get in that lane too. But the truth is, every time a bus goes by, it probably does not have 70 people on it, but it does very likely have about 30 to 35 people on it, especially during rush hour. So every time you see a bus go by, just know that on that right-hand side, that many cars are taken off the road by that bus. Now, if there's nothing that you take away from this presentation today, let it be just this one item. You are not stuck in traffic. You are traffic. So if you can take yourself out even once a week, that's a 20% reduction in your contribution to rush hour traffic. And if you're thinking, all right, well, that's cool, but I don't live in a transit-supportive neighborhood. That's fine. All you need to do is share the ride. If you carpool once a week, that's a 10% reduction in your contribution to the traffic. Certainly, I would encourage you to do it more than that, but truly just once or twice a week can really make a difference in what the experience of being on the road is like. Now, in the Austin area, the average commute is about 16 miles to work, which is astounding to me, but that's how far people are traveling. And if you've ever done federal reimbursement for mileage, then you know it's about 60 cents a mile. But just for this thought experiment, 50 cents a mile is a lot easier to do the math in your head. So if you're going 16 miles, that means you're paying $8 to get to work and $8 to get back. And you can see how this adds up pretty quickly. If you were to take my advice once or twice a week, pull yourself out, that's about a $1,700 a year savings. So a $125 a month raise. And, you know, if you were to get rid of your work commute entirely, not all your other driving, just work commute, that's about $4,000 a year. And you can see how it very quickly turns into a college education and savings in just a few years. In addition, if you're downtown, you're kind of laughing at this slide because parking costs start at $200 a month, and I'm sure it's a lot higher for you in your office. And this is a hidden benefit that you're providing to your employees, and the cost keeps going up, but employees are expecting this free service. Now, I know that I've gone to a lot of offices where they've done an exchange, and they say something like, here's a $150 credit, you figure it out. And I come in and explain what a monthly pass costs, or maybe you're using B-Cycle, or you're driving once or twice a week now and paying the day rate. There are lots of different options that could work for you, but it's becoming a less accepted benefit. Employers, as well as housing and apartments, are unbundling parking from either the job or the housing. Now, this is how much time we are wasting in traffic. 66 hours a year. Each of us is wasting this much time on average. And to be clear, if it takes you 20 minutes to get downtown now, and then it takes you 30 minutes during rush hour, we're just counting the extra 10 minutes. And this keeps going up by about 4 or 5 hours a year. So by the time I update this slide, it's very likely by the end of the year we're at 70 hours of time wasted. And it made me think, what can I do with this time? Well, I could review every band that played South by Southwest. I mean, I could listen to every band in my car, but I can't really write a review while I'm driving. Also, email. It's a big deal for me when I have meetings that are downtown, or I can take bus or train to get to those meetings. I can check my email. I manage several social media accounts. I can even read the paper or reports or mark up PDFs. Those are things I can't do while I'm driving. Also, a lot of people watch TV or movies or go to sleep or literally Netflix and chill while riding, which, again, something you shouldn't be doing while you're driving. Others in your team are going to be motivated by cleaner air. We're putting about 22 tons of carbon in the air each year, each person, just from transportation. And again, your work commute is a piece of the puzzle. So just if you took my advice twice a week, you made that your I'm going to get there some other way, then that would be a 10% reduction. If you stopped commuting to work, and that's just the work commute, that would be a 25% reduction in your contribution to carbon pollution. And in addition, and finally, there's a lot more freedom involved with using transit. Now, I have a lot of versions of this slide. This one in particular, if you've got kids, you don't need to give them a ride everywhere to every single club and after-school event. They're perfectly capable of getting around. In fact, if you're 18 and younger, it's free to ride all buses and trains in the city. So a lot of parents do lean on that service, and if your child is 13 and up, then they can ride alone. We're giving about 250,000 rides for K through 12 each month. In addition to that, if you're a senior, maybe you're not going to see shows after dark. Maybe you're not driving downtown because you don't know where you're going to park, how much it's going to cost to park, how far away it's going to be from where your final destination is. Perhaps you're neither of those. Perhaps you just use it to go downtown. I mean, if you're going downtown at night, you got to deal with where am I going to park, how much is it going to cost, who's sober, and what happens if my car gets towed, How am I going to get it out of Hawk? These are all things that are limiting your flexibility of getting around the city, and transit can provide you an alternative. All right, so we've kind of covered why transit, and this does matter because, you know, when you're talking to your employees, it can't just be make the money argument, or it can't just be make the time argument. And really, it's a whole package of things that go into the calculation. This next section, though, is about what services we provide, and we'll start with things you know, and it'll become less and less obvious that these are services that we provide. So you're going to be the person with the most knowledge in your office very soon. So first, what is probably most known as our local service. Metro Bus are our blue buses. They're really the workhorse and backbone of our system. In fact, just as an aside, we provide more trips every year on Metro Bus than the Austin Airport provides in a year. The Metro Bus is providing over 20 million trips a year. The Austin Airport is providing about 17 million trips, just to put in context. Capital Metro overall serves about 35 million trips a year. But with Metro Bus, it works the way you think buses work. There are the blue buses. You go in through the front door, you pay with cash, you pull a cord to make the bus stop, and the bus will stop at almost any pole in the ground as long as somebody requested or is waiting there on the side of the road. Metrorapid was originally introduced as a premium service, but it's actually a local service now with the same price point, which we'll get into in a second. And Metrorapid provides several different additional services. So those are our gray buses with red wrapping. You can go into any door. You can get on with cash or tickets or with the mobile app and scan yourself in. All of them have Wi-Fi, and they only stop at stations that have real-time arrival information. So they're making fewer stops, people can board more quickly, and so therefore it's a faster trip on the corridors. Now, we have two of those in place right now. The 801, which is North Lamar and South Congress, and of course it uses the Transit Mall on La Vaca and Guadalupe downtown. But again, 801 is Lamar and South Congress. And then the 803, which is Burnett Road and South Lamar. So the 803 can get you from the Domain down to Central Market South. The 801 can get you from Tech Ridge all the way down to South Park Meadows. In addition to that is our Commuter Service. You probably know this most from Metro Rail. The thing with Commuter Service is it's designed to bring commuters into and out of the city. So yes, you could catch a train station downtown and go to Plaza Saltillo, but most of the people using the rail are going up to Howard or Lakeline or Leander. Same with our Metro Express service. It's designed for those morning and evening commuters. Most of our express service is just morning and evening rush. The one real exception to that is the 985, which runs from Leander and Lakeline, and it runs all day long, 15 minutes at peak until midnight. So if you are a rail rider and you're listening and you thought, I would like to go to a happy hour that lasts past 7 o'clock, then Metro Express might be the way to do it on the 980 or the 985, and we can talk about that more offline. But both of these services, again, very limited stops. You can get Wi-Fi on these vehicles, both, and they also are a very cushy ride, partly because they're going for so much longer. But as a result, they're a little bit more expensive service, and again, we'll talk about that in a second. Paratransit Service. So this is Metro Access. I know not so many people had used it before. Our paratransit means it's parallel to our transit service, and it's designed for people who cannot walk to their bus stop. So the service we offer is kind of like Super Shuttle was. You have to book it in advance, usually 24 hours in advance, and it'll pick you up at your door and drop you off at your final destination. But just like Super Shuttle, you don't know how many people are going to be on the vehicle that day. So they might have to pick you up way earlier than you need, or you might have to sit and wait to get picked up by that vehicle. So it's good for what it does, but it's not the most flexible service. And in addition to that, while it's designed mostly for people mostly who have a permanent condition, you could get seasonal access. Like, let's say you had a hip surgery and you can't get to your stop, you would qualify for Metro Access. Even seasonal asthma would be a qualifying condition. In general, the way it works is you have to go to a doctor, have them fill out a form that you can download on our site. Then you make an appointment with us at our downtown transit store, and then you qualify for the service. So the main takeaway here is don't just show up downtown and expect to get Metro access. There's a process involved with your doctor, filling out the form, and making an appointment. So I'm just going to briefly go over these and then pricing points for these, and then cover a couple more services that I mentioned. So first, local, pretty much it's $1.25 one way. Unless you're going to the airport, I would recommend the day pass because it costs the same as 2 one-ways, but it gives you 24-hour unlimited access. So $250 is for the day pass, and it's about $40 for a monthly. We do have a Metroworks program where, as an employer, you can purchase passes in bulk at that monthly level, and you can pass on a discount of between 20 and 35% to your employees. Now, this reduced fare that's there is really for seniors, active military, and some income qualified audiences. But again, for Metroworks, you can buy a monthly pass at 20 to 35% off, depending on what kind of organization you are and how large the buy is. In addition, there's Commuter Service. It's $3.50 one way, $7 for the day, about $100 a month for that service. One thing to know about Commuter is if you have a commuter pass, since it's the most expensive, it will cover any of your local trips. So if you take the train downtown and you're at the convention center, maybe you walk down to Cesar Chavez to take the 17, maybe you walk up to 8th to catch the 4 to go across town. Those trips on local would be covered. Now, it doesn't work in the other way. So if you're up north and you're trying to get to Lakeline Station, so you think, oh, I'll catch the 383, it'll take me to Lakeline, I won't have to drive. Just know that when you get on the bus, you have to ask for a commuter pass first so that you pay once instead of having to buy another ticket when you get there. In addition, access is basically the same cost as local. Where can I buy tickets? We know on the bus with cash only, at rail stations with cash only. It's a long story, but basically the vendor for our ticket vending machines wanted too much to maintain credit cards after the security chip. So we have changed vendors. We originally planned to have those new ticket vending machines ready to roll by South by Southwest. And they're there, but they may not be operational until about April. But you will be able to purchase tickets with a credit or debit card at rail stations starting later this spring. Some places you might not know about, supermarkets. Anywhere you can cash a check at a supermarket, you can also get a transit pass. And I just ran out of space there, but Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, like all of the markets here have them. If you want credit card, then you can go to the transit store at 9th and Lavaca. We'll take any form of payment. Same with online, but you got to wait 48 hours for it to get mailed to you. Or you can use the Cap Metro app, and you can purchase through that app with your tickets. They don't go bad until you activate them, so you can just have tickets waiting there, and you can use PayPal, Apple Pay, Google Pay, credit, debit, and I think we're coming up with some other form of payment as well. So if in the future I'm hosting a presentation for your group, I can do a live demo of that app as well as Google Maps and Transit, but today we're going to skip that because we're going to be focusing on ProjectConnect. So as promised, a couple things you don't know about Metro Rideshare. I don't think anyone on the call had used it before. Essentially, it's a van pool. And the difference between van pooling and carpooling is that there are more people in your pool, usually, but also with a carpool, you usually go door to door to door and you're picking everybody up. With van pooling, they tend to meet at one location, like let's all meet at the coffee shop or let's all meet at the supermarket, and they ride together. And the way that it works is, you're driving, but instead of putting the mileage on your car, you're putting it on our car. And in exchange for that, you're agreeing to bring some other people with you. So an ideal pool has 5 people in it, and our most successful vehicle is a small SUV like the one you see in this photo. But you could do a passenger van. If you wanted to carry 12 or 15 people, we're not going to stop you. But you can get a pool started with as few as 3 people total, and we'll find a couple extra people to throw into your pool. Or if you don't want the responsibility of driving, you can just join an existing pool. So if you work downtown or the Domain or Mueller, there's a bunch of other people who are looking for those. And in fact, we have several hundred of these riding on the road currently. They're not only for people who live and work in Austin. You can live or work in our service area. So we have just as many van pools that are going out to, Waco and to San Antonio and to Dripping Springs. And we have people who live in those places who are coming into and out of the city each day that qualify for this program. I think the pricing starts at about $50 a month, and you split gas and tolls. And there are programs in place where if you're an employer setting it up, there are federal discounts that can go to reduce the cost of this program for your employees. Again, it's our vehicle, so we do all the roadside assistance, maintenance, repairs, insurance, and we can even give you a guaranteed ride home. All right, so I think this is the last of the services that we provide, and this is probably the newest one, so you may not have heard of it yet. But if you've heard of ride hailing, like Uber or Lyft, then you are familiar with how to use Pickup by Cap Metro. Essentially, you use a mobile app, or if you don't have a smartphone, there is a phone number. You can call a small vehicle, like the little 10-passenger vehicle that's at the top of this screen, and it's wrapped and says Pickup. It will pick you up at your door and drop you off anywhere in the drop zone in that area. Now, we originally launched this because of losing some service during CAP remap for people. And I think the easiest one to explain is this Northeast ATX. Can you see my cursor there, or should I use this thing?
There's a little bit of a delay. Okay. No, we can't see your cursor.
Okay. Well, if you're looking at the Northeast map, needless to say, the bottom right before the white is 51st Street. And the middle road is Rogge Lane. And we realigned our services on 51st Street to come every 15 minutes because our customers said they were willing to walk further to catch high-frequency service. Now, if you live on 51st Street, you're like, this is awesome. And also, if you don't live in Northeast Austin, you know 51st Street. But if you don't live in Northeast Austin, you have never heard of Rogge Lane, which makes it harder to use the system. So we realigned on 51st, and now we have this pickup service to bring people to the new stops on 51st. But to be honest, some people use it just to go to the Mueller HEB or to go to Bartholomew Park, and that's perfectly fine. In addition, Manor was one of our early options. Manor had a fixed route that came once an hour that 18 people a day rode. We replaced it with pickup service, so now you're getting a vehicle to come every 15 minutes, and it's picking you up at your door so you don't have to walk to a bus stop. And now we have over 150 people using that service a day. So it really is a game changer. It's why we launched it in Leander. It's going to be way cheaper to offer this than to build more parking up at that train station. Walnut Creek as well. We're connecting the 801, the 803, and the train, and you don't have to transfer to another bus to connect between them. So you're going to see more and more pickup service. These are our neighborhood circulators, and you're going to see later in ProjectConnect where we're planning to put those neighborhood circulators, and by that we mean pickup service. Whew. All right, so that was just background to get us prepared for ProjectConnect, and I think that there's a poll that Alex has prepared for us for ProjectConnect. What's that question?
How familiar are you with ProjectConnect?
Okay, is that up on the screen now?
That's on the screen.
Great. So if you can take a second just to let us know how familiar you feel. We just want to see how it goes from before to after.
We're voting.
It's giving me a chance to have a little bit of coffee with my Movability.
Super exclusive Movability sticker.
Are we ready to close it down?
Give people one more minute. We've got 86% voted. Just go ahead and select on the screen if you are not familiar at all, somewhat familiar, or very familiar, and click submit. Okay. Go ahead and close that poll. So it looks like we've got 56% say that they're somewhat familiar with the service.
Okay.
And then 22% say they're not familiar at all, and 22% say they're very familiar.
Okay. Well, that's really helpful. Again, we know ProjectConnect has been in the news, and we posted a lot of standalone events, but we're trying to change it so that we're coming to you. So my hope is that many more of you walk away feeling like, I actually know what is in this plan. All right, so here we go. Just to get started, we talked about this. We are doubling in size. It happens every 20 to 25 years. There's no surprise here. This isn't new, but we're at a critical moment. You know, when I talk to people about having rail in the city, they often say, well, New York and Berlin and London, you know, you're 100 years behind. But the truth is, if you look at those cities, when their central cities hit 1 million people, that's when they built their subway line. So we're at this critical moment where we've got 1 million people inside the city, and it's going to double to 2, and the region to 4. So our goal is to build a system that's going to connect major places where people live and work. And we want to make sure we can do it in a way that's affordable because, again, you know, it's going to fall on some property tax to make that possible. At the same time, we want to make sure that it's fair. There are plenty of people currently riding who maybe are concerned about, like, well, what's it going to be if I have a train instead of a bus? Is that going to impact my bus trip? And we have other parts of town that maybe don't have coverage because traditionally people aren't really riding there. But that's at the expense of people who don't live in that part of town that would like to get there. And an example would be the Wildflower Center. We don't have service there now. That's not really equitable because if you don't own a car, it means you can never go to that site. So we want to address those with the plan. Now, we have a whole process of where we are, and I just wanted to touch this before we get into particulars. We, as Capital Metro, have been working in a conference committee with City Council. So City Council and our board have been meeting regularly for a couple of years now, and there's been a planning team working on it for even 3 or 4 more years before that. But we got to a critical junction in January. There was a joint work session at City Hall where city staff and Cap Metro staff made their initial recommendation. In March, on March 9th actually, City Council is going to produce its recommendation, and there'll be an opportunity to provide feedback there before their final vote in May. I don't know the exact date for May yet, but I do know March. It's March 9th, and they're still deciding on a venue there. But in May, that'll be when it gets locked in. So there's still opportunities to influence this plan. After May, it's going to go into full-scale campaign mode. And in November, when you're voting in the presidential election, this will be an offering on that ballot if you live inside the city of Austin. And then after that, it's go time. So most likely we will launch certain things like Pickup and Metrorapid in the 1 to 2 year time frame. To fully build the rail that we're proposing, that will take about 8 years. So we'll go from 2020 to 2028 before we can unwrap it and have a red ribbon cutting. All right, so let's get into details. First, this is where we are right now, and you can see the blue line is the river. And just notice that we've got MOPAC, I-35, 183, and 130 there. You can also find the airport down towards the bottom right, just so you have some context. So first, this is our bus system, and it is not qualifying commuter, local, rush hour, frequency. It's just these are our buses, just so you have a sense of how we connect with all of our services. So let's start first with our freight lines. Now, many of you are familiar with the red line, and the red line is literally a red line on this map, and it goes from our downtown convention center. It heads east to Saltillo and MLK. It comes back across the highway, and it goes to Highland, Crestview, Kramer, which is essentially the domain, Howard, Lakeline, and Leander. And it came to be because in 2000, a rail referendum failed by less than 1%. It was that George W. Al Gore election, and it lost in the same level that Al Gore lost. And at that time, the board decided, well, let's give people a taste of rail. We've got this freight line. We're running freight on it. Let's run people on it. But we don't want to ruin our prospects of having federal money in the future. So we're going to self-fund this project. We'll do it on the cheap, and we'll improve it over time. And in 2004, that plan passed, and that's how we got the red line. It opened in 2010. So 2004 to 2010, red line. As an aside, we are improving upon the red line right now because of grant funding. So we're double tracking, we're expanding the downtown station. And so that way we are capable of offering 15-minute service and 7-day-a-week service and later service. It's just right now, we literally don't have the capacity of rail, and we don't have any place to store trains downtown so that we can offer more frequent service. Now, in addition to that, we own another freight line that is running freight all the way out to Elgin, and that's the green line that's on this map. It would basically start the same way, downtown station in Saltillo, but then it would keep heading east. So the next stop would probably be at about 5th and Pleasant Valley. Then we'd move over to where Canopy is at that Springdale and Airport area where that arts district is getting going. We would move past 183, and there'd probably be a park and ride at 183 for that area. If you go just beyond it to Colony Park, there'd likely be a stop on Loyola as well as within Colony Park. And then this plan suggests having a station at Manor, so that way we have that commuter option just like we do up in Leander. And again, that's existing track, and we want to run a diesel-style engine just like the Red Line would have. In addition to that, we want to put light rail on. Now, again, light rail means it can move within city streets. It's going to be electric. It's going to have an overhead wire for delivering that electricity. So it's not heavy rail, it's light rail because you can move it easily within traffic because there isn't a third rail to electrify people. Now, this blue line, you'll notice it goes from the airport, then it heads west on Riverside, and it crosses the river at the downtown convention center and heads north. Right now, we think it's going to make it at least to the Innovation District by UT where the medical school is, but because of construction and relocation of the Irwin Center, it's a little unclear about how we would go through UT. We might stay on Trinity San Jack, we might move to Red River, and ultimately we want to get to ACC Highland. But there's a lot of unknowns there. So you'll notice that's a dotted line because we're probably going to start with an initial line and decide whether to expand after. So that's the blue line. And again, that is rail in a dedicated transit way. It is sharing no space with cars, no space with buses, no space with bikes. Then there's the orange line, and the orange line might look familiar because if you ride Metrorapid 801, that's the same service area. It's using North Lamar, the Transit Mall downtown, and South Congress. Again, we are proposing light rail, center running in the middle of the street with platforms in the center of the street in its own dedicated transit way. Sometimes there's space for it to be at street level, sometimes it would go above, and sometimes below, just so that way we can manage car flow there as well. You'll also notice some dotted lines. So if you look close, north of 183 is a dotted line, and south of Slaughter is a dotted line. And south of Stastny is a dotted line down to Slaughter. And the reason why is, believe it or not, when you're north of 183 or south of Stastny, you are on a TxDOT highway, not a city street. Now, I know the city of Austin is working on a land swap, but we don't have a guarantee we're allowed to put rail in the middle of the street. But TxDOT has said they are willing to have dedicated transit way. So our proposal right now is to have light rail on the solid line and then to transfer to BRT, which is bus rapid transit, meaning dedicated right-of-way, center platforms, no other buses, nothing else in that lane, but we'll be using buses instead of trains. So from Tech Ridge down to 183, that's North Lamar Transit Center, and from Slaughter up to Stastny, which is kind of South Congress Transit Center, it'd be BRT, and then it's LRT in the center. I'm going to skip this slide, and we'll get back to it in a sec. So these next lines, these are all purple lines, I think. I have a little color blindness. This is extending our Metrorapid system. Remember, at the beginning, I said we have 2 lines that are Metrorapid. We now want to have 7. And let's see, I'm not sure. Is there a pointer tool that I can use for this?
Pull this up real quick. Let's see if we can.
Yeah, an arrow would be great. Okay, so can you see my arrow? Can you see me moving? Okay, So first, we want to upgrade our existing services with Rapid. Again, Rapid means the bigger bus, all-door boarding, Wi-Fi, and real-time arrival info. Currently, the 7 in South Austin is due for an upgrade, but you'll notice it doesn't go downtown because it touches the Blue Line and you could transfer it to light rail. Instead, it goes north of the river on Pleasant Valley all the way up into Airport Boulevard. So this is providing new central east connections for people who live southeast. You no longer have to go downtown to get back out here. In addition, we want to upgrade the number 4, which is essentially 6th Street, east and west. Right now, the number 4 runs every 15 minutes, but only till 8 o'clock at night, and after that, it's every 30. If it becomes Metrorapid, it would run every 15 minutes until at least 12:30 in the morning, till 2:30 in the morning, Thursday through Saturday. So this could really become a big, popular nightlife line. Also, we want to upgrade MLK and Manor Road to Metrorapid. Our current 803 right here, we are discussing possibly bringing it down Lamar instead of Guadalupe in the future. And we're also talking about adding new service. So right now, the 803 ends at Westgate Transit Center, which is underneath Ben White near Manchac. We want to run the 803 south along Manchac all the way down to Slaughter. Huge improvement for people who live down there. Also, we want to have another leg that runs down to the Y at Oak Hill, so that in addition to the flyer, like the 171 flyer, which runs just morning and evening rush, you'd have 15-minute service from Southwest Austin all day long. Some other lines that we want to add include this one right here that goes from ACC Highland up to Tech Ridge. That's on Dessau and Cameron. Huge growth up there, especially around this area near Samsung. And then we want to add, speaking of Samsung, we want to add a line on Palmer Lane that goes across from the Apple campus to over where Samsung is, and then to connect to the Green Line over in Manor. So huge improvements there. You'll also notice these neighborhood circulators are spotted throughout. Again, that's pickup service that we want to launch. And I think this Southwest Parkway pickup is probably next on the list. So if you're from AMD, NXP, HID Global, or just any of the apartment complexes over there, you're probably like, woo! And we really want to provide that service. But you notice we have one here by Circle C. We're talking about down by the Wildflower Center, and you can see that they're throughout the city. Let's see, how do I go back? So I just want to advance my slide, so we're going to get rid of this cursor. All right. The last thing that you'll notice is that we add extra express service. We've been working for a while to try to add express in Pflugerville or Bastrop or Kyle, and so those things are on there, including out by 4 Points on 2222. And you'll notice we want to add more park and rides. The one that I've mentioned the most so far is the one by Wildflower Center, because once MOPAC has a toll lane running that far south, we could run express and have everybody park there. Also, those circulators would bring you to that park and ride. But there are other ones up our sleeves, like we're looking at turning the Delco Center at 183 and Manor Road into a park and ride. We're looking for one at 4 Points, and you can see there are several of these on this map. So some last things to give you. I noticed that my image is a little cut off, but essentially we are talking about dedicated transit ways. And you can see in this image that there's a difference between having buses running in mixed traffic versus having a bus or a train running in its own transit lane. We can quite literally move 3 times the number of people in that amount of space. Further, our proposal, so if we did every single thing in this system plan, it would be the equivalent of building a 12-lane highway. That's how much space and how many people we're able to move through this. Now, I think I'm going to go back to the pointer, so excuse me for a second. I've gotten better at this now, right? Here we go. So the last thing I want to point out, and I promised you I would tell you about this U shape here. So one thing we are proposing, which is controversial, and we don't know if the city's going to approve it or not, because again, this is not a Capital Metro bond. This is a City of Austin, either bond or tax election. And something that we think would be a good idea is having some underground tunnel. We suggest tunneling by the blue line, right by the convention center, because if you want to head north of 6th Street, you got to avoid the 6th Street closures. So we need to go above or below it. We're recommending below. We also think that we should have one going on 4th Street that would connect the convention center to Republic Square. That would set us up over time to eventually get over to Seahome if we ever work it out with Union Pacific to run commuter service to San Antonio. They'd all be connected through this tunnel. And then we want to tunnel between Republic Square and Wooldridge Square. That's basically 8th and 4th Street. So it's not a ton of tunneling. We might have 2 underground stations, but if we do this northern section on Guadalupe between Republic Square and Wooldridge, we won't get in the way of all of our bus service, which currently runs there. If we do this tunnel underneath, it allows us not only to avoid streetlights, but it allows us to interline these services. So, for example, you're at the airport and you use the blue line, you're thinking, oh, I have to go to the convention center. But with the tunnel, we could run the blue line, go to the convention center, and then it could link up with the orange line and go all the way north. Or it could link up downtown and go south. Or it could link up and head towards UT. So that means that in theory, these 2 lines in actuality will function like 3 to 5 different train lines. So it is a big deal to have the tunnel. Otherwise, you're having to get up and transfer. So again, this is a controversial thing that could be removed. It's about $1 billion for that tunnel, and so the City Council is going to have to think about it. Traditionally, they've sold bonds. That's one-time funding for a project, but it doesn't give you ongoing operating and maintenance, so they are currently considering a tax rate election, and that would be a new property tax that's dedicated for this service, and that way, as people move into the region, they're also contributing to the project versus asking for bond finance and only we foot the bill. Okay, there we go. So 2 last things. There's major economic impacts from this. Every dollar we spend results in $4 of economic activity. Some of that's obvious from the construction itself. Also, property values would increase. There would be way more housing and jobs built along those lines, and they come with lots of other businesses attached to them, just like our highway system does. We get hotels and restaurants all along them. That creates a lot of economic activity. And speaking of jobs, each $1 billion spent results in about 22,000 jobs. So we're expecting if the entire plan, which is a $10 billion plan, happens, we will have about 200,000 new jobs, mostly engineering and construction contracts, but also the ancillary overflow that comes from building new places for people to live, work, dine, and entertain. And again, it's a $10 billion plan. The feds will match us up to about half. So we'll be asking voters anywhere from $3 to $6 billion for the plan for the entire thing. So that's really all of my prepared comments, and I know that the team has been collecting some questions during this presentation. If you have questions, go ahead and send them our way, and we can start addressing them. But also, I wanted to give you my email and phone number, so that way, if you want to schedule a presentation like this at your campus, I can do that. We've got plenty of time to do it, and I love nothing more than an adoring crowd of people throwing crazy questions at me, even if they come with pitchforks and torches. So let's see, are there any questions at this point, or are people still thinking about it? Okay.
So one question we got is, will the routes for Cat Metro pickup service expand later this year?
Yes. So pickup is planned to expand regardless of ProjectConnect. It's just that with ProjectConnect, if it passes, we can do a lot more of them more quickly. So as I said, we know Southwest Parkway is on the front burner. We're also looking at one possibly in the Dove Springs area or just a little bit north of it.
Okay. This is maybe more of a comment. The last vision plan presented to the PCAN does not show the gold line on Guadalupe Lamar, but it appears this one presented still shows it, but it isn't on the system plan draft shown.
Right.
there's no reason to have both the orange and gold lines on Guadalupe and Lamar. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, so again, I skipped over it because, again, it was a system plan, not necessarily in our latest version. The main takeaway is that you can interline lines. So you may functionally be on a line that is the orange line heading south, and then it uses the tunnel and heads north on the blue line. And so it may be that when we publish a system map, we will call that the gold line so that you don't think there's a transfer if there isn't one. But we're not married to any particular thing. And to your point, PCAN member, and that's our ProjectConnect advisory network, the gold line was originally planned as a bus rapid transit line that would run in that U shape. But we think that with the tunnel, it's possible to provide the same kind of service just using the blue and orange.
Thank you. Another question, will there ever be a transit center at Hancock Center, i.e. a Metro Rail interchange with, for example, connections to bus and light rail?
So that's not in this plan initially, and the Hancock Center is an interesting inflection point with this plan. We know that ideally we would head north through UT and use Red River, and very likely stop at the Hancock Center, and there's lots of buses that come there, so it's possible, and that center could develop over time. The issue we have right now is we're not sure how to approach ACC. We could go underneath the highway. Maybe we could join the same tracks, although I believe they're different rail vehicles and the tracks wouldn't work with the light rail. And then we could continue north on Red River through Hyde Park. Naturally, there are a lot of constituencies at play here, and rather than get mired in that right now, we've decided that we're not going to run it quite that far yet. So Hancock Center is not really planned for a regional hub yet. It may be that 20 years down the road when we start trying to expand, that would become an opportunity for us.
Great. Another question. So for those who want better transit in the region, what's the best way for them to get involved and help spread the word about that?
Well, so there are a few things. I mean, certainly today I'm asking you to invite me to host a ProjectConnect Traffic Bites presentation. It could be a lunch and learn, but I've been known to make appearances at 8 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon, depending on what works for you. If you're part of a church or a school or a neighborhood association, again, inviting us, or even saying something like, I know a person here, you should work with this person, that will help us spread the word so we can get in front of people rather than making us come, making them come to us. In addition, there is the PCAN, and there's also a customer service advisory committee. And if you're interested in joining those, you can always email me at the contact information above, and we can connect you there. But really, right now, it's about getting this message in front of as many people as possible so that they can contribute to the ultimate plan.
Awesome. One more question here. The argument for the tunnel is to avoid the small downtown blocks. Would that also argue for the tunnel continuing all the way to MLK?
So, I mean, this is not Capital Metro. This is Lonnie Stern speaking here. I mean, if it were up to me and money were no object and I was a benevolent dictator, I mean, I would love to see the tunnel run all the way past the drag. I mean, it would be great if it popped up around 29th or 30th Street. But, you see how little tunnel we're talking about. We're already at $1 billion. And so money in this case really is an object. And so we can't make promises that are beyond what we think our city capacity is at this time. But to your point, yes, we would love to see longer tunnel. We just can't guarantee it at this time.
Yeah. Okay, final question. Do you know if Cedar Park is planning to get on board with the regional connectivity?
I really hope that's the case. If you're here from Cedar Park, I would encourage you to talk to your city council member. They care more what you think than what Capital Metro thinks about service. And, here's the main reason why. When you live in Cedar Park and you ride, most likely you are driving and parking at Lakeline Station. We have already expanded the Lakeline Park and Ride, and it's full. It's jam-packed. Now in Leander, we've launched pickup so that people don't have to drive to Leander Station, and it gives you more capacity in that lot. We would like to do the same thing in Cedar Park, offer a pickup service to expo them to Lakeline Station. but because you're not part of the system and because you're not approving funding even for like a smaller negotiated service, we can't provide it. So on the one hand, yes, everyone at Cap Metro genuinely wants Cedar Park to join, either with the 1 cent sales tax or even just some smaller amount. Like Round Rock is using their general budget to fund a limited amount of transit, but they dip their toe in the water. We would encourage Cedar Park to do the same. So please advocate for it if you live up there.
Great. So somebody asked earlier if this will be recorded. It is being recorded, has been recorded, and will be available afterwards. So everybody who attended or registered will get a link to the recording. And again, we encourage everybody, reach out to Lonnie, get him to come on site, and if he's unavailable or that doesn't work for your schedule, you can also share this recording out, post a lunch and learn on your own, and rewatch the recording. That's another option. So again, thank you all for joining, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.